My first guest tonight is Matt Fitzgibbons. Matt, thank you so much for, first of all, putting up with my little rant. I've got to get it off my chest. I just, you know, it's a mixed bag of things. But I want to thank you so much, and I've made a study of you. By the way, his new CD is called Pawns. Pawns, if you get a chance to pick that up, just Google Matt Fitzgibbons. Google Matt Fitzgibbons, Patriot Music. You'll be surprised what comes on. But you have an incredible music career. I've listened to all your stuff. I've seen all your interviews.
All right.
What motivates you to be involved with patriot themes and getting back to the original documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
From a historical perspective, we've seen some very interesting things happen where you have culminations of genius. For example, the Renaissance, natural philosophy, which became science recently, the digital age. But a unique set of circumstances occurred in the American colonies in the 18th century that we all know. However, what a lot of people today have forgotten is that there was a unique collection of geniuses who knew their history. They knew human nature. They were students of philosophy and of politics and of history. And they had a unique opportunity and did something very unusual, which was the creation of our founding principles. So my mission with my music is to try to inspire people to think about, learn about, and talk about individual liberty and the things that made our republic the longest standing, freest nation in the history of our species.
You know, there was a book, there's something like the 500-year leap or the 5,000 year. It just talks about when you create a society where you have freedom and people are given the freedom, given the tools to just fulfill their manifest destiny individually and as a country. And you have guys like, you probably think of Thomas Jefferson and some of our founding fathers that put all this together. It is really incredible. I mean, we are blessed to live in this country.
John Locke is a major inspiration for me, as he was for many of the founders. But you know, I don't know to what degree we're going to get into history, but it's very important, I think, for a lot of people to realize that there's a distinction between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, and it was because of the Anti-Federalists that we got the Bill of Rights. Alexander Hamilton, for example, argued that a Bill of Rights would be dangerous. So everybody on both sides...
So Alexander Hamilton, in a nutshell, wanted to have a strong centralized government, generally speaking. Is that right?
Within the context of that time period, yes.
Okay, and then Thomas
He would be
Jefferson,
rolling over if he saw what we did with that centralized government, but yes. At the time, he was the advocate of centralized government.
And Thomas Jefferson was like, hey, anything goes, freedom to all, you know, we don't want to have standing armies and kingdoms and royalty and that kind of thing.
Hamilton, to some degree, I would say Hamilton was mostly in support of militia. He wanted a small centralized military, and it turned out to be necessary in the Whiskey Rebellion a few years later. But the idea of having a centralized military, history had proven all of the founders was a very, very dangerous concept. So there...
So I mean, you talked about that court case with Heller in the Supreme Court, and you take a very pro-Second Amendment approach to some of these things. And what do you call it? The final secure of our freedoms, or you have a term for it? I'm
trying to think what it was. That was some years ago, and I think actually Cruz was the one who argued that case. Ted Cruz argued that case. So the teeth, perhaps?
Yeah, but it was the final defender of our freedom is the Second Amendment, that we have the right to bear arms.
It's essential, and it's an old concept. There's an article, not really an article, but a series of pieces of historical evidence, from quotes to constitutions and legal documents, that I assembled many years ago on my website. It's called The History of the Right to Bear Arms. And it goes back to ancient Greece, for example. There's actually a biblical passage in the Gospel where Jesus asks the apostles if they have a sword. There are all of these instances where the definition of what a militia is just becomes historically obvious when you look at the whole line of these things over the course of several thousands of years. And, for example, the debate as to what the militia is today has always been settled. All you have to do is consult the original dictionaries that our founders used when the Second Amendment was written. So the militia is the potential of a military that will form as needed. So it's the entire embodiment of their definition would be the male citizenry.
But you would say, our founding fathers would say, look, we don't want to have tyranny by the government. We don't want to be overwhelmed. And that the individual who has a right to bear arms, it is a stopgap against that. You know, I mean, when Stalin takes over, when Hitler takes over, the first thing they do is confiscate individual firearms.
Well, it's the final check and balance.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we
That's
have,
what you said. It was a final check and balance. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, so we have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branches, of course.
Yeah.
We have the Bill of Rights. We have all of these other things. But the Second Amendment, the potential for a militia to exist as needed is the only way to actually deliver those famous lines from the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have no means of doing it. It's nothing but words.
It's interesting. I just was reading a book called These Times That Test Man's Souls. And it was by Speaker
Gingrich?
Newt Gingrich wrote the book.
The Time That Try Men's Souls.
Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine quote, yeah. And they talk about going to Lexington and Concord. The British were marching out there to confiscate weapons.
That's right. It was the first gun control attempt.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's what sparked the whole thing.
Absolutely, and we're founded on that.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, now you have a couple songs. Tell us what you're going to sing. Tell us what the motivation behind it is. And again, remember, the latest CD is called Pawns. But please, if you like this music or these themes, just Google Matt Fitzgibbons, Patriot Music, Matt Fitzgibbons. But what do you got for us?
All right, so I'm going to be doing an unplugged version. The album has a lot of, this is my latest album, there are 4. I started doing this back in 2005, and Pawns was just released a few months ago. And what I'll play for you here is obviously going to be an unplugged version. But many of the pieces on these songs are produced with other artists I have coming in, for example, playing guitar and things. But for the most part, I play the majority of the instruments.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to go
ready
James
for a
Taylor.
tune?
I'm ready.
All right,
Let us know.
let's do it.
So what's I'm sorry. The first song
so
is
this
called.
one's called "They Can't Take That Away From You."
All right.
This is off of my last album.
And again, if you want to get Matt's music, just Google Matt Fitzgibbons, Patriot Music. It's incredible what comes up. I mean, some of the songs like that. One, Remember the Americans, that video, where you have the iconic photographs of Americans going to distant lands to protect people's freedoms. I mean, it's compelling. It goes back to World War I. Graphic.
I drove down with my father to the Library of Congress and spent 3 days there. And it was wonderful with the white gloves, seeing some images that no one has seen in a long time.
And there was one picture of a gravestone that said Fitzgibbons.
That's correct.
Was that a relative of yours?
Yes, my uncle was killed in Normandy a few weeks after the invasion.
Wow. Wow.
So, and his body was moved back to the United States. But it had a profound effect on my father's family, and hence through me.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
All right.
Comes with every walk of life, from the homeless to the prince. They say it's been a long, long time that we haven't earned it since. It guides the heart and fills the soul. It teaches to be true. They can't take that away from you. No, 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 no. You know your rights are not like laws that they can change or just ignore. They're there to claim by every soul, like so many did before. And I can see it in your eyes, but it depends on what you do. They can't take that away from you. No, 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 no. Anytime time we cower, we grant them one more power to take more. Remember all the souls who fought for you before. Now it's your war. They can't take that away from you. No, 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 no. They can't take that away from you. No, 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 no.
Wow, very good, very good.
Thank you very much.
That studio line, that is good. Now, all these songs, you write them. You're a singer-songwriter, so you wrote this song, and you're making the distinction between rights and a law that can be abridged.
That's
but the founding documents talk about that.
Inalienable liberty.
Yeah, and it doesn't come from another man. It doesn't come from a king. It doesn't come from some sort of congressional body. But they said inalienable rights given by our Creator.
That's right. They come from existence.
Yeah.
Governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
Right.
That's it. It's the Declaration of Independence.
Wow. And then if the government, if you disagree with it, through democracy and the freedom that we have and freedom to express it through the ballot, we can change that. If we don't like it, we can change it.
That's right.
And if nothing else, this latest election showed that America has range. If you can vote for Barack Obama, an African-American president with, generally speaking, liberal views, and then 4 years later vote for Donald Trump, a self-made billionaire with more conservative views, generally speaking, depending on who you talk to. But if nothing else, we show that we have a vibrant freedom in this country, and we have a choice to choose our leaders. We don't have to take it because it's the next one in a royal chain, or it's some totalitarian dictatorship that's shoving it down our throat. Think Venezuela or the former Soviet Union or what have you. But it's great. I mean, we're blessed to live in America.
You make a very good point, because the Republican Party had a lot of different candidates that they ran, and there were huge differences between all of them.
Yeah.
What happened with the Democratic Party, for example, the collusion, with the Hillary Clinton campaign against Bernie Sanders, all the rest of it. But I think one of the important things for people to realize through their own research, don't trust me, go out and do your own research, this notion of progressive government, there's nothing progressive, there's nothing futuristic about these ideas. They've been tried and tested over and over again, particularly in the last century. Every form of collectivism ends up with a decrease in liberty. It ends up with a massive problem with economics.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it almost always ends up becoming an aristocracy, because party members end up having more rights than non-party members.
Yeah.
And in most cases, we can go around the world and name a lot of these collectivist governments, they also lead to war and ultimately genocide.
Yeah.
So there's a real danger in this collectivism, this notion of centralizing government to a point where it solves all of your problems.
Yeah.
My perspective is that liberty is about tolerance. It ultimately comes down to tolerance. If you want to have freedom, you have to grant it to your neighbor.
Yeah, no, I think that's true, and hopefully, anything we can do to increase liberty, to increase tolerance, to increase freedom, it benefits everyone.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm like, walking on air ever since Donald Trump got elected. I mean, when I see some of the things he initiates, where he's releasing regulation off of people, where he's saying, you want to form a new regulation? Okay, you got a grandfather, you got to retire too. It's so great. I mean, and I think people are recognizing that. They're saying, wow, I've got freedom to actually pursue my dreams, and there's going to be some long arm of the government that's going to come in and with buzzwords like pay your fair share, or we need that more, don't you care about the less fortunate? And we see it in living color if you're watching anything having to do with Venezuela. You can just see it right in front of your eyes. Brazil's another example of that too, where everyone comes in, oh, I want to help the people, I want to help the people. Even Trump in this last election, and he got twice as many African-American votes as the two previous, as McCain or Mitt Romney, 3 times as many Hispanic votes from the inner city. I mean, it was like pretty unnerving. And Trump's like, what do you have to lose? These democratic liberal policies are not working. They're just not working. And you see it in the spades down in Venezuela where they're actually literally hijacking food trucks.
That's true.
The average Venezuelan has lost 18 pounds just because there's not enough food.
North Korea, the Soviet Union, I mean, we've seen this all over the world. My big concern is that the election in many respects, I think for a lot of people, unfortunately, was mommy versus daddy. And just because daddy...
Now you're getting Freudian. But
I am, but just because dad won doesn't mean that you don't still have an obligation to get involved. Anybody and everybody who is in power needs to hear from you. Yeah. The job is not over. People can't kick their feet up on the couch and say, okay, we got who we wanted, and go back to your life. You've got to keep these people accountable. Remind them that they are your employee. Yeah. This is essential. I mean, look, for example, we all carry these things around with us. Yes. How dangerous is this? We now know that the NSA captures every keystroke, everything that you say in or around this device all of the time. This is a dangerous thing, and both political parties and people who are a member of all of it just simply passively say this is okay. They don't think about it.
Yeah, and then
that's wrong. It's totally un-American.
But then they got Susan Rice going, you know, it's in the national security interests of the country for us to see those documents about Donald Trump and his whole transition. It's national security. It's national security. I mean, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Which now I understand. We just found out that that's why they asked the British to do it for them, so there wouldn't be a paper trail.
Oh yeah. You guys are really brilliant up there. Yeah, Susan Rice, Obama and the boys, Eric Holder, James Rosen,
and his mother and father.
And his mother and father out in Staten Island. Like the Rosen families, they're at home having Passover Seder, and this is national security thing. Yeah, right.
But my point is that for me,
don't get me started.
For me, it goes past political parties. We have to hold them all accountable. In many respects, I think the founders knew that the people who seek power, particularly when you've got a large centralized government where there's a lot of authority, are the last people you really want in power generally. Yeah. And my point only is that for sake of the music and trying to reach people who are maybe fence sitters or on the left or on the right, whatever the case may be, I try to stay out of partisan politics as much as my honor allows me to, because I have to be faithful to these founding principles first. All right. So I'll hold Republicans' feet to the fire just as fast as a liberal.
God bless. Okay, what's the final song you got for us?
All right, so this one is, I actually wrote this song in 2005, and I was talking to my manager about this about a week or 2 weeks ago, and we talked. This was one of the first songs I wrote for the project, and I was running through a couple of pieces for some of the interviews I'm doing, and he said, when did you write this? I said 2005. He said, you got to play it. All right. So I learned it again. I was doing it with a full band before, but anyway. Okay. So the lyrics maybe you'll find interesting, hopefully.
All right. This one. Circa 2005, and remember the new CD is Pawns, and you'll want to get that. Go to Matt Fitzgibbon from a cultural point of view, because this, of course, is not commercial, public access radio, but from a cultural point of view, you got to get Matt Fitzgibbon's Patriot Music.
Oh, it's educational.
Absolutely.
USA is at a crucial stage. It's not because the foreign wars we wage has more to do with the colors blue and red. Too many laws and too much government. Can you tell me where the Constitution went? The Bill of Rights is just hanging by a thread. So many people trying to cross the border, while politicians build a new world order. So many minds are convinced they should be led. I've gotta be free the way God made men, and I won't be ruled by the damn UN. right to self-defense. They say you're safer, but it don't make sense. The dangerous ones will not turn in their guns. All the unions always ask for more, but all we buy is made on foreign shores. There'll come a day when there'll be real hell to pay. I've gotta be free the way God made men, and I won't be ruled by the damn UN. I've gotta be free the way God made men, and I won't be ruled by the damn UN.
La la bay.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. That is fantastic, fantastic. Listen, and if in one of the, and when in my vast research for everything I saw, there was one song, "Remember the Americans." If you want to Google that, get the video to "Remember the Americans." It's really incredible. Can you stay with us?